Hey guys, what's poppin'? Welcome back to Football Yannick. I'm going to talk about this Arsenal-Chelsea relationship today. Sorry, Arsenal fans. I know I did a couple of videos ago on Arsenal. I am trying to rotate fairly, like leaving it about, I don't know, a week per each club, maybe talking about whether it's Real Madrid, Barcelona, Arsenal, Liverpool, United, etc. Don't really talk about Tottenham much, but not much is going on there. I do try and keep a rotation, but obviously I look at what's the big talking point, the mood on social media and stuff. And this is kind of related to Chelsea, but this is a unique situation because although I'm speaking about Chelsea, you'd think, Jan, why are you not doing this on Football Therapy, the main channel, the Chelsea channel? I kind of want to look at this from an Arsenal fan perspective, or at least try my best. So I'm doing it here, and it's more of a sort of talking point rather than a Chelsea news. So I thought, yeah, I'll do it over here on Football Yannick and not Football Therapy. Of course, we're speaking about the Noni Madueke to Arsenal, and even there's been talks that Chelsea are monitoring Nwaneri, the young, very exciting attacking midfielder that's sort of doing a job at right wing. And he's the star boy. He's Arsenal's star boy, isn't he? Obviously, Miles Lewis-Skelly's been excellent at fullback, but Nwaneri, I think he's a bit younger, and he is, an attacking player. They're often more exciting. Not a lot of Arsenal players want Madueke. They know Chelsea will be making a huge profit by selling him to Arsenal. Chelsea bought him for 33 million euros, which is about 29 million pounds, under 30 million quid. You'd imagine they're going to sell him for at least 40 million pounds plus add-ons, probably. I'm speculating to a degree here. He is accepted personal terms of Arsenal. I think he's probably read the room a little bit, knowing Neto starts over him, knowing, Stavel's coming in on that side, and Gittins is just signed. And although he's a very useful player, Madueke, and I think Chelsea like him and will continue to use him, I think he might sort of feel like, well, I want to be the guy. Well, is Arsenal going to Arsenal being the guy? Well, probably not, unless he's going to play our position on the left and they sell Martinelli to Saudi Arabia. Or he's going to be a backup for Bukayo Saka. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about Nwaneri. We're going to talk about all of the Chelsea players that have gone to Arsenal under Mikel Arteta alone. He does have an obsession with Chelsea players. And we're going to get into it. Guys, thank you for joining me. Thank you for coming back. Everyone's welcome here. So if you do like the content, please do consider liking and subscribing to this channel, Football Yannick, where of course there's daily content. Yesterday I reacted to that PSG Bayern game, a bit of a ding-dong, horrific injury to the young Jamal Musiala. But this channel, hopefully this video will get us to 18.5k subscribers. So thank you for liking and thank you for subscribing. Lots of videos and content, of course. Right, so let's sort of, before we speak about Madueke in isolation at Arsenal, before we speak about Nwaneri, let's talk about this direction of travel with players going to Arsenal from Chelsea, in recent years at least. The only ones that have gone the other way to Chelsea that I can think of, and correct me if I'm wrong, is Amari Hutchison, who then Chelsea sold for I think we got him for a compensation fee and then sold him for £18 million to Ipswich. So that was a great business from Chelsea, and not the greatest look from Arsenal into that terms. They did get Ria from us, the young talent, who was, saw this absolute clog of youth talent at Chelsea and decided to go to Arsenal. So there is an example there. In recent history, now I don't know, I think all but maybe Petr Cech. When did Petr Cech sign for Arsenal? I think it must have been Unai Emery. I think it was. But for me, he does represent this sort of recent. He went to Arsenal in 2019. 2015. What am I talking about? He left in 2019. And I think Arteta joined Arsenal 2018, possibly. I'm just looking at managerial career, 2019. So Cech would have just gone out. So Petr Cech wasn't, in that sort of Arteta reign. But since Cech, it's been a lot. Petr Cech, David Luiz, Willian, Jorginho, Kai Havertz, Raheem Sterling on loan, now Kepa Arrizabalaga, and looking lightly, Noni Madueke. It's a lot. it isn't like, and you know, the only young player out of that group is Kai Havertz, who now, what is Kai Havertz now? Now he's 26. He's recently he turned 26 a month ago, just under a month ago. So he's still in his prime, Kai Havertz. Hasn't won anything with them yet, but he's a good player. You know, obviously he was signed to be an attacking number 8, and then he ultimately, same thing happened at Chelsea. Frank Lampard signed him to be an attacking 8 in this great vision, and then he ended up being a centre forward for Tuchel. Just because he's tall and can win headers. It's kind of a waste of his talent, in my opinion, but he's hard to sort of work out and fit in appropriately. Same thing's happened at Arsenal. Arteta's just played him as a striker. I do wonder what will happen when they sign a Seshko. What will happen to Kai Havertz? Will he replace Martin Odegaard, who's been out of form? Is he going to be farmed out on the left? He has played on the left wing before, but again, you're not getting the most out of him, or you're not getting the most out of that position. So, and of course, Kai Havertz was purchased for £71 million, Chelsea, and was sold to Arsenal for £68 million after 2 years. So they actually banked a book profit on Kai, and of course he's on big wages that Chelsea were no longer prepared to pay him. So it was a bit of a win for Chelsea. And like The Athletic reported at the time, it was a peculiar transfer why Arsenal paid so much for a player that there was no competition for. There was no bidding war. It was just Arsenal, and somehow they paid a lot of money for him. But he's the young example. I'd say players like, Willian and David Luiz, I think, were, mistakes. Petr Cech was probably a mistake. For an absolute icon of a goalkeeper, didn't have the best of times there. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. So, the Brazilians, Czech, so far, not hits. Jorginho, I think, was probably fine, because I think he had 6 months left on his Chelsea contract, so it's definitely suited Chelsea for the money they got from him. But it suited Arsenal because they were getting a senior player. He was like, I don't know, how old was Jorginho? He's 33 now, so he's probably 31-ish when they signed him, 30. They're getting a senior player who's won the Champions League, who trains well, who can play that role, and he sort of was like a backup, and yeah, kind of, it was sort of fine. I think if you ask most Arsenal fans, they'll be like, Jorginho was fine. And I think probably in the long term, they'll say the same about Kepa, because Kepa was a disaster for Chelsea as a transfer. But it was obviously the previous ownership, but these owners, they extended him, they put on low wages, and they put a release clause for $5 million, which actually gave them a book profit, which they wanted for the accounting purposes. So, obviously Arsenal, with him accepting a rotational role, I think it will prove to be a good signing. Because how can you fail that? So there's them two. And then I do genuinely think Noni Madueke is the newest out of them all. Is the most interesting. Sorry, the most intriguing. Because he's 23 years old. He can play well on the right or left wing. He's not a Kai Havertz, like, is he a half-space player? Is he a number 10? Is he a false 9? Is he a true 9 that we play in the, 6-yard box to win headers? What is he? Can he play as an attacking number 8? Can he farm him out on the left wing? He's not like this problem that needs to be solved, Noni Madueke. He is a chalk on your boots, touchline winger on the right, much like Bukayo Saka, so he can deputise for him, and he can sort of do a job on the left where he comes inside a little bit more. And he's won man of the match for England in a competitive game playing in that role. He is a player of a high ceiling that's only 23 years old, and although he'll almost certainly be getting a massive pay rise at Arsenal, he will be on affordable wages even for them there. Now, let's talk about why I'll leave Chelsea. First of all, wages. We bought him from PSV as a bit of a risk for 29 million, and we probably put him, I would like to check, but I think he's on quite low wages. Let's have a look. Yeah, so Noni Madueke is on £50,000 a week at Chelsea. Cole Palmer, we signed him, we put Cole Palmer on 70k a week. So he was on a higher signing fee, but he cost more money, he came from Man City. And then we gave Cole Palmer a pay rise after his record-breaking first season to 120k. Now that's still probably, Cole Palmer's pay increase is probably still half of what Kai Havertz is getting paid at Arsenal, just to give you an idea of the wage structure. Now, Cole Palmer got the pay rise at Chelsea. Moises Caicedo is about to get one. Nicholas Jackson got one. And Noni felt like he was next. He scored a few goals for Chelsea. He's been quite productive. And he was like, why? I'm only on 50k a week. Now, Arsenal, let's give him like a reserved thing. I think Arsenal would treble his wages, 150k a week. Is that fair? Like, let me just quickly look at the Arsenal salaries. I'm using Capology, by the way. Okay, so, Kai Havertz is on like 280k a week. Gabriel Jesus, 265k a week. Martin Odegaard, 240k a week. Declan Rice, 240k a week. Like, Thomas Partey, who's now gone, of course, 200k a week, as well as Saka. So they're all on massive wages. But so say, and these are all players that will get paid more than Madueke as a new signing, who, by the way, is an England international. So he'll feel like, 100. I want to triple my wages to 150k a week. Who's on 150k a week? Ben White is on 150k a week. Zinchenko is on 150k a week. Do you know what I mean? Noni would be like, yes, please. Like, Martinelli is on 180k a week. And you got the centre backs like Saliba's on 190. I mean, Saliba's a very, very good centre back. So yeah, that would probably be a really like a comfortable estimate. He could demand 3 times his wages at Arsenal. So that is an allure for Madueke in terms of what he's earning at Chelsea. He's young, but he's 23 now, and he's like, I've been a high profile player for a while. I want to start earning money as quickly as possible. Let's get me some money. Let's put me on a 5-year deal at Arsenal. So he's 23. He doesn't turn 24 until March next year. So you also start stacking them Ps, understandably. But look, Arsenal are a good team. They're a well-coached team. I don't know if he was going to back himself to bench Bukayo Saka, but he'll probably think, well, now they can rest him, now they can rotate him. I'm willing to play on the left a little bit to play some football, and, we can do it. So that is why I wanted to speak about it from the Arsenal perspective, because they do pay more wages. They won't look at 150k a week and feel like this is dumb. They'll be like, fine, fair. Because, that's how Chelsea used to operate as well. We used to pay like really high wages, just base wages, no incentives, just like, I'm sure Arsenal get bonuses, but the structure at Chelsea is they get a low base wage and then they get high wages if they win things and you score loads of goals or whatever. So I do think Noni's the most interesting out of this recent sort of plethora of Chelsea players that have flocked to Arsenal. I found it fascinating that there's this sort of culture war on X, on social media, that a lot of Arsenal fans are unhappy with it. I think, considering their situation, I think he makes Arsenal better. I think even if they pay £45 million for him, I think he'd probably be a fine signing, good signing. But what I wouldn't be happy with is Ethan Nwaneri going to Chelsea. Now, I need to cover this a little bit. It's a mental, because especially for the Arsenal fans that don't want to sign Madueke, for them, the story of Nwaneri to Chelsea is really triggering, is on top of salt in the wound sort of thing. And he's a fine young player. I gotta be real, man. If his gripe with Arsenal and not, extending his deal is about playtime, I mean, you've got no chance of getting more playtime at Chelsea. And that's nothing to do with the talent. He's an amazing talent. And I'd be excited if we signed him just because he's a great player. But the players that can play as attacking midfielders on the inside, we already know Enzo Fernandez, vice captain, that's where he plays. We know predominantly that's where Maresca sees Santos, an amazing talent who Arsenal fans, many of them, want to sign Santos. And then you've got the more conventional attacking midfield. Of course, new signing Joao Pedro can play there behind the striker in attacking midfield roles. And of course, you've got Steval, the new Brazilian superstar. He wants to play as a sort of attacking midfielder number 10. These are all young players, bro. They're all 23 and under, apart from maybe Fernandez. So why you wouldn't be looking at that the path's clear. That's why I'm going to play my football and get minutes. So for me, it seems highly unlikely. I wonder if it's just an agent thing from Nwaneri trying to get Arsenal to put some clauses in his new deal saying, yes, you will pay X amounts of minutes. Don't go to Chelsea. I don't know. It's speculation to a degree, but I think it's fascinating. Let me know what you think. I'd be very interested to hear Arsenal fans' opinions. If they watch this video, please leave them in the comments, or just everyone leave comments in the comments. Yes, friends, at least one video a day here, so do consider liking and subscribing, and I hope to see you back here soon. Peace.